Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a vanity for a bathroom reno. Now I will link into the description the first vanity that I did on the channel. What's different about this install is I'm going to move the drain and the water to make the finish look a lot better. So on this job, I'll have more flexibility to go ahead and do things the way I would normally want to do it. So what I'll do now is we will look at the cabinet drawings, and then we're going to look at the space that we're going to be working in. Alright, this is the cabinet drawing. We don't have the cabinet yet, the vanity. So with this drawing, this is what we're going to base our water and our drain on. Now, as a general rule of thumb when it comes to plumbing, the idea is when you open the door, your drain will be in the middle and then your water is going to be on both sides. People like symmetry. The current layout that we have now is the water comes up through the floor here and here. So this is a top view. This is the front view. So with our top view, we have drawers on this side. We have drawers on this side. 23 5/8 is from the very outer edge here to the center of the doors here. So to make this the best possible look, you want to have the drain and the water in the middle. Currently, the drain comes out over here on a 22. To make this look nice will be very difficult. Now, I don't believe this cabinet has a backing. We see the very top piece here. This is what we're going to screw into our studs. So I believe this is open. I don't know this 100%, but I believe that's what it's going to be. So my plan is I'm going to spin the T. We're going to come out in the middle here, and then from the wall above the trap arm, so our trap arm will be here, here, and here, we're going to have our water. When you open these doors, it'll be a nice symmetrical look. Guys, the one thing that I cannot emphasize enough, before you do something, plan out your job. Take 5 to 10 minutes, lay out what you're going to do before you go ahead and do it. Especially when it comes to drilling out structure, if you don't plan ahead and you drill in the wrong spot, you can cause costly damage to your house depending on what it is. And I've seen people drill out load-bearing beams on the very edge, which you're not allowed to do. So by taking 5 to 10 minutes to plan things out, you're going to have a better product, a better result, and it's just going to overall be better for you in the long run. So with that in mind, what we'll do now is we're going to look at our drain, our water, and how we're going to move them. So here I'm going to measure out and lay out where the drain and the water are going to be. So the cabinet drawings I just put on the ground. So measuring from the right wall, 23 5/8 is the middle of the cabinet. So I'm going to draw a vertical line with a C. This means center. So measuring off the floor, 28 3/4 is the bottom of the cross piece that will be used to screw the cabinet to the wall. So these studs are 24 on center. So I really can only hit right in the middle where my C mark is to screw this cabinet in. Now, measuring from the right side of the wall, the trap arm on the right side comes out at 34.5. So that is where the edge of the drawers are going to be. So this trap arm needs to be spun into the wall. Otherwise, it's going to come out where the drawers are. And instead of doing a hack job, we'll cut a hole in the wall, spin the trap arm into the wall, and then patch the wall back up so everything looks nice when you open the cabinet. Our water is going to come out 3 inches above our trap arm, so it'll be a nice look. Alright, this is our materials list. So I have ABS glue, 1.5 pipe, 2-inch pipe, 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 T, 1.5 union trap, 1.25 by 1.5 slip adapter, 1.5 90, have a few 45s, an 1.5 Fernco, 1.5 coupling, 2-inch coupling, a sweat by PEX adapter, 2 angle stops, scutcheons, 1/2-inch PEX, a 2x4 block. I have my PEX tray, so rings, 90s. I got 3-inch screws, solder and flux. This is what I believe I need for this job. So what we'll do now is the tools list. Alright, this is our tools list. So I have my finishing kits, copper cutters, crescent wrench, ratchet wrenches, everything else I could need. I have my cordless kit. I'll need the impact and the cordless drill. I have an extension cord. I have a light circular saw. I have 2 by an 1/8 inch hole saw. I got 1 and an 1/8 drill bits, an extension for safety equipment. We have earplugs and glasses. 1/2 inch crimpers, my hand tools, silicone gun, hacksaw, 2 inch level, 4 inch level, and then I have my torch and a spray bottle for water in case I need it. Guys, this is what I think I need for tools for this job. So, let's get started. Here I'm taking a 2-foot level and I'm drawing a level line across the drywall. So I'm going to use a hand drywall saw to cut a hole in the wall to move the drain and move the water. Guys, once again, make sure that you use a hand drywall saw. Don't use a Sawzall or anything, because if you hit a wire, you're going to be able to feel it. The one thing that you can see is the drainage in the wall that needed to be avoided. So now carefully pry off the drywall so you don't damage it, so you can reuse it. And now I realize that I ran into a problem where it's a 2 by 1.5 inch T and I have a 2 by 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch T. Later I realized that they had a reducer up above my cut in the drywall. Here I'm cutting on the right side of the stud for my cold line, which I forgot about. The cold will come onto the right side of the stud. The stud wound up being right in the middle of where the cabinet would be. And then make sure that you bevel the drywall so you have a nice clean edge to go to. So here I'm going to drill the bottom plate for our hot and cold water to come up out of the wall. Make sure that you put on earplugs and safety glasses. Now I'm going to take a Sawzall and I'm going to cut out the T. The T was about 18 3/4, so I can just put the new T a little bit higher and everything will work out. Now, because of the stud, I need to measure for the piece of pipe for the 90 and the T, and everything has to be spun in as one piece. So because the pipe is not right in the middle of the wall, what we're going to do is we're going to take up for that. So this is the back wall on this side here. This is the center where the pipe is going to be. This is 3.5, but 1 3/4 would be over here, and you don't have much play, and the last thing we want to do is stress things. So just by measuring off from here to here, we'll punch the hole in here. And then I will put that over the trap arm, and you'll see how it goes. So this here is going to be for our water pipe. And then on this side here, I'll probably just put a 2x4 here, and then we will push this off a little bit and then tack it. But because there's nothing over here, I need to
mount it on something.
Yeah. So I'm taking a 2 1/8 hole saw, and I'm going to drill a hole into the 2x4. This will be for the trap arm to go through. So with the hole now in the vertical 2x4, I'm going to screw a piece of 2x4 onto the very top of the vertical piece, and this is going to be the backing for the hot stop. The 2-inch ABS I had to cut a little bit lower because I couldn't get a 2-inch coupling to fit. So I've glued the coupling on, and now I'm doing my mock-up for the drain. Here I'm cutting the piece, and I'm going to glue the T in and the trap arm all together in at the same time, and then the wood backing I'm going to screw in right after. So the T is now going to be glued in. Everything needs to be glued in together at the same time. I'm going to glue the trap arm on, and then I'm going to set my grade well, I still have time to mimic the fittings. The backing is now being screwed in with 3-inch screws into the stud and then into the bottom plate. With the hot side backing done, I'm going to just put a block in and screw that into the stud. This is going to push the cold stop off center a little bit more. Now I'm prefabbing the PEX. So I'm putting a 90 on and crimping the rings. Put it into the hole in the base plate. For the hot, I'm just going to use a Mickey because I don't have enough space to get a hammer in for a Talon. And then I'm going to put a couple Mickeys into the base plate as per our local code here. So for the hot and cold, make sure that they're at the same elevation so it looks better. I'm going to Talon the cold to the block that I screwed into the stud. So I'm going to use 1/2-inch plywood to scab the 2 pieces of drywall together. I didn't know that I would need the plywood, and then the drywall screws I forgot to put in the material list. But make sure that you go all the way around so you have a nice continuous edge for the drywall to be screwed together too. So when putting in the plywood, make a note of where the water and the drain are going to be. The last thing that you want to do is hit your own lines, and yes, I have done this. So I'm going to put the drywall back in. I drilled a hole for the cold stop. The pencil marks on the drywall is for me to know where the backing, the plywood backing is for when I screw in the pieces of drywall. So I'm going to drill a hole for the hot, and then I am going to cut a hole for my trap arm for the 90 going through, coming out into the cabinet. Now the drywall will be fitted on. Make sure everything fits fairly well. There was a couple nails at the bottom sticking out, so I pounded those down. The piece fits in fairly well, so now I'm going to go around and screw it. And now you can see the pencil marks where they will mark where the plywood is, so I know where to put the screws in to hold everything together. So with this all done, I go down into the crawl space. So I'm going to clean the copper lines before I cut into them. It will make it easier. Now, because we are lower, there's still water in the pipe. So be aware of this when you go to solder, because you're going to have to boil this water off. Otherwise, your solder is not going to melt. So now I'm going to flux the fittings and the pipe and get ready to put on my sweat by PEX adapters. So you can see the amount of steam coming out of the pipe, and this is from the water inside the pipe. So make sure that you don't start applying your solder until the steam has stopped, meaning that all the water has been boiled out of the pipe. So I didn't show this, but make sure that you wipe down the solder joints with a wet rag or wet piece of paper towel to get the flux off. Connect the PEX. If you don't have a torch, just use shark bite fittings. I'm not a fan of it, but for DIYers, that is a suitable alternative. So now I'm putting the scutcheons on and the stops. I didn't show this, but I mudded the wall. It still needs to dry, but this is all going to be concealed inside the cabinet anyway, so it's not going to be anything that you're going to see. Now we're waiting on the vanity to arrive. So the cabinet and the countertop and sink arrived. They all came together prefabbed. There's white silicone and then a Moen Genta model faucet. This is the remaining material we need for this job, so let's get started. So I'm going to lift up the countertop. I'm going to silicone the countertop to the cabinet. If you look just below the drain, the 2 screws, that is what is holding the cabinet to the wall. Now I'm going to take a 4-foot level and we're going to level out the cabinet. In this case, the cabinet is within reason, so no shims are needed. I'm going to silicone the backsplash now to the wall. So using an S pattern, I'm putting silicone on the back side of this backsplash. I'm going to use a couple weights to hold it tight to the wall. Now I am putting a bead of silicone along the very top of the backsplash, and then with the silicone tooling tool, I'm going to go one way and then I'm going to wipe it back the other way wiping the excess on the paper towel as I go. Now we're going to install the faucet. The homeowner wants to use the base plate, so the gasket with the sticky side will go onto the base plate side. This is the nut for the faucet. So the groove shows the threaded side of the nut. It's not threaded all the way through. This is the washer. The rubber side goes to the very top, and then the metal side will be on the nut side. It also says this side down on the washer. So using the base plate, the O-ring is on right now, but take that off. And this is the design of this. So you put the washer on and then the nut, and in between the faucet and the washer is where the countertop is going to be. So put the whole contraption in through the hole. So this is the drain assembly. The rod is what actuates the pop-up. Now, because of the backsplash, we can't use the pull rod, so I need to take the pop-up out. But the rod needs to go back in because that ball is what's going to seal the hole for the plastic nut. So the top piece in my right hand, that is going to have putty put onto it, and that's going to go on the inside of the sink. And then the tailpiece assembly is going to go on from the bottom side in the cabinet, and then you're going to tighten the two together. Now the tailpiece assembly is going to be installed. Make sure that the beveled washer is still on with the bevel towards the top. That's going to seal from the bottom, and the putty is going to seal from the top. So the nut on the side with the rod that's not in currently, make sure that is at the back, so it'll be up and out of the way. Now tighten the nut on the bottom, and that is going to tighten the beveled washer tight to the bottom of the sink. And the rod needs to go back in, otherwise you're going to have a leak through the hole in the plastic nut for the pop-up assembly that's not going to be used. So the hot side has a sticker that says hot side. So hand tighten both lines, hot and cold, to the stops, and then take a 5/8 open-ended wrench and a crescent wrench, and then tighten down the lines to the stop as tight as you can go. Now for our drain, we have our 1 1/4 by 1 1/2 slip adapter, an 1 1/2 union trap, and the 90 for the trap arm coming out of the wall. So for the piece between the slip adapter and the trap, what I'll do is I will put the slip adapter about halfway down the vertical tail piece that is on the sink. Now dry fit the assembly together. Make sure everything is going to work before you go ahead and glue anything. Everything works out, so I'm going to glue it. Now the trap can be spun. So line up the trap 90 and the 90 coming out of the wall before you take your measurement. Now I'm measuring for the pipe between the trap 90 and the trap arm 90. I'm gluing the pipe onto the trap 90. Be sparing with the glue, and you can always turn the trap 90 upside down so you don't have glue going down the seat. Now I'm gluing the other 90, level it, and if you've done this correctly, everything should just fit on like a glove. Turn on the water, and now we need to test. Now I'm going to fill up the sink. A little bit of green is from cutting into the copper lines. But when you test, make sure that you fill all the way up to the overflow. Do this 2 to 3 times, and then pop the drain and check in the cabinet for any leaks. So I didn't show this, but after the test, I do silicone the base of the backsplash to the countertop so it is waterproof all the way around. Alright, so this is our finished product. I put on the towel bars as well. So the cleanout would have been behind the drawers, but there's one in the crawl space, so it wasn't necessary to put one in here. But the water's in the middle. Everything looks good. I'm very happy with this. Alright guys, so that concludes this project. So everything worked out well. The cabinet drawings were accurate. The trap arm and the water came out in the middle of the cabinet space. There's maximum amount of space for whatever that you want to throw inside the cabinet underneath the sink. The countertop, the backsplash, everything looks good. Everything worked out really well on this job. I'm very happy with the result, and the homeowner is very happy as well. The time on this job. The time to move the drain, move the water, install the cabinet, silicone everything, and then do the plumbing for the sink. The time was about 8 hours. The cost of this job. So for the countertop, the cabinet, and then all the plumbing material, to get this job done. The total was about $2,400. Now the cabinet was by far the biggest single cost on this job, but when you look at the detail of the cabinet, it's real wood. I mean, everything looks phenomenal for the price. I mean, I'm very happy with the result. And if you go one step further, this is the type of result you can get as long as everything is planned out in advance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.